Chapter 18. Logan's POV. As soon as the word rogue reached my ears, I immediately scooped Eva in my arms and up the stairs towards our room. I tucked her under the covers. "I don't want you to worry about anything, okay? Take a nap and I'll be there when you wake up, I promise," I said, wanting to assure her that everything will be okay and that I'll handle the situation. The last thing I want is for her to feel afraid and to start to panic. To my surprise, she calmly nodded her head. I kissed her temple and hurried out the room. As soon as my feet stepped out of the pack house, I shifted into my wolf mid-air and sprinted towards where the fight was. My wolf Rex, with his strong, huge build, took over me completely. The urge to protect Eva and the pack overcame everything else. When I reached the battlefield, I was proud to see that my pack was actually winning, but something confused me. The scents hitting my nostrils seemed so familiar that I couldn't help but gaze out to pinpoint where I've smelled them before. I snapped out of my thought as I was caught off guard by a wolf jumping right at me. I was able to tilt my body, making him miss my throat by a couple of millimeters. He lunged for my neck again, but I swiftly moved to the right and bit one of his hind legs, making him yelp in pain. I took this as a chance to cause more damage. I jumped on his back, pinning him to the ground, and in one quick movement, pierced my canines into his skin and snapped his neck to the side. His dead body limped under me. I didn't get to look around as another wolf attacked me. He was way smaller than me and looked like an easy kill. I used my paw to cut deeply into his face. He stepped back a little, but I quickly lunged at him, ripping his throat out. I looked around me to see that most of the wolves that attacked us were dead. I quickly mind-linked Jake, my beta, to keep at least 2 of the rogue wolves alive. I saw one of my pack members, Peter, fighting a wolf, not aware that another one was sneaking behind me. I ran as fast as I could, my wolf speed helping a lot, and tackled the wolf to the ground. His wolf was small in size, making it easy for me to pin him down completely. "I got one," I mind-linked Jake. "I got another," he replied back. I looked around me to find that all the other rogue wolves were taken down by my pack members. Taylor was already done with the wolf he was fighting and turned towards me. "Thanks, pal," he mind-linked. "Any time," I replied back. All of my warriors shifted back and covered themselves with some shorts. 2 held down the wolves I was pinning, and another 2 held the wolf Jake was pinning, so we could shift too. I slipped on a pair of shorts and walked over to the rogues. "Shift," I commanded, using my alpha tone. They had no other choice but to obey. The boys dragged the rogues to the basement cells as I followed behind me with Jake and Taylor. We tied them to the walls with silver chains, and I was more than ready to interrogate them. Everything seemed so stupid, though. We are known as the most powerful and dominating pack after the royals. My father and I are on first-name basis with the king. Why would someone in their right mind try to attack us? "What brings you to our pack? Why did you attack us?" I asked the rogue on the right, using my alpha tone. I stood proud and intimidating, crossing my arms over my chest. "Our alpha just wants his slave back," he replied with a scoff. The next thing I know, the rogue's head collided with the wall next to us, and his body fell limp in the chains. My blood was boiling, and my eyes were definitely pitch black by now. How dare he? His statement reminded me of where I've come across such scents. These weren't some lone rogues attacking. It was Eva's old pack, the New Moon pack. But why would Alpha Drake want her back if to him she's only a slave? Unless... I turned to the other rogue who trembled in fear. "Tell me again, what do you want from us?" I asked, challenging him to say the wrong words. Alpha Drake wanted us to bring back your mate," he stuttered, not lifting his gaze up to meet mine. "But we don't know why, I swear. He never told us," he said hurriedly. This is getting more confusing by the minute. Alpha Drake must have known something, but how? I didn't tell any of my pack members about the Gumhiho thing. It never left the pack house. Only selected people knew. We have to do something about that good-for-nothing mutt. Without further saying, I turned on my heels and left the cells. I was starting to get suspicious about that Wesley person. It's so ironic how right after he came, the attack happened. I heard Jake's footsteps follow behind me, and I stopped to face him. I need you to keep a close eye on Wesley. Report to me everything he does. Even if he farted in his sleep, I want to know about it, I ordered, before turning around and continued walking. I didn't wait for a reply since Jake won't refuse an order. Instead of making my way to my room like I wanted to, I moved my legs to my father's office's direction. My father does most of the paperwork now, leaving all the fighting and outside pack managing on me. I'll be Alpha in a few weeks, and he wants to make sure that I was ready. He only gets involved when needed. I knocked on the door, and a tired "come in" echoed from inside. I opened the door, and myself on the couch opposite his desk, my usual spot. He was discussing with his beta, Mark, some stuff, so I had to wait for a couple of minutes. "Okay, I'll get those ready by tonight," I heard Mark say. He and my dad were finalizing everything about the pack, so they would be ready for me and Jake to take over. Mark turned around, greeting me as he left the room. I replied him back, then turned to my father. "Is the situation with the rogues done?" he asked. I nodded my head. "We've managed to keep 2 of them for interrogation," I told him, and sat up straight from my lying sit position. "And?" he cooed, raising his eyebrows a couple of centimeters up. "One of them is dead for insulting my mate, but the other is still alive. We found out that they were actually sent by Alpha Drake from the New Moon Pack," I explained, my blood boiling at the thought. My father looked at me, surprised. "Eva's old Alpha?" he stated more to himself. "Yes, and for some reason, he wants her back." "Is it possible that he knows about what she really is?" he asked, worry filling his voice. I hung my head low and shook it. "I don't know, but I don't think it's possible," I replied. "I mean, we didn't tell the pack members about it, and only certain people know. Certain people that I bet my life and yours that they didn't say anything." "Maybe they've planted a spy," he asked. "Maybe, but who?" I was about to complete talking when a knock was sounded from the door. A scent hit my nose, and I knew exactly who it was. Wesley. "Come in," my father said. I clenched my fists, ready to attack. Wesley opened the door slowly and came in. He was shuffling in his place, and he looked really uncomfortable. I think I might be able to answer some questions," he said, slowly, his eyes never leaving his feet. "And what can someone like you have for us?" I snapped at him. "For all we know, he can be the spy." "Logan," my father warned, but I wasn't fazed, yet I said no more. I actually know something," he stuttered. "And what would that be?" my father asked calmly. "Alpha Drake knew from the beginning," he said, making both my father and I to look at each other in alarm. I decided to play the dumb card on him and ask, "Know what?" He gave me a flat look, but quickly lowered his gaze at my glare. That your mate is actually a Gumhiho," he replied. With no second thought, I lunged at him and pinned him to the wall, my hand holding his neck tightly. My body was tensed and my eyes were pitch black again. "How and when did he know? And how do you know? Who else knows?" I asked dangerously. He knew ever since she was born," he choked out. I felt my father's hand on my shoulder. "Let him go, Logan. We need answers, not a dead body," he calmly warned. I let go of Wesley's neck and he fell to the ground, coughing and heaving for air. "Talk," I ordered. He caught a bit more before he looked at me and said, "Alpha Drake was on good terms with a witch. He asked her for great power, and that's when she led him to your mate. He wanted her pearl for the powers it holds, but he knew that she couldn't have it until she matured. So he took her from her parents, he explained. Then why did he treat her so badly? And how come her parents just gave her away like that? I asked. He thought that if he scared her and made her weak, then she would give him the pearl without a fight. But about her parents, that's something I really don't know, he replied. I tried to calm myself as much as possible, but truth be told, I was ready to start a war with that alpha. And how do you know all this, boy? My father asked, when he realized that I wasn't going to without killing someone. When I was slaved, I overheard Alpha Drake explain all this to his beta. His beta was very reluctant about his alpha wanting a slave back. He didn't understand, so I guess Alpha Drake had no other choice but to explain, he answered. Who else knows about this? I asked. Wesley shook his head. No one. Alpha Drake didn't want anyone else to know, afraid they might want her pearl too. I was getting all racked up and angry. Can't they just leave Eva alone? They've put her through so much already. Father, this won't be their last attack. We need to do something before they strike again, I told Dad. I told you, son. We can't just go tell the royal family anything without proof, even if we are close to the king and queen, he replied, the answer which I dreaded. I can help with that too, Wesley said, making our heads to snap his way. How? I blurted out. Alpha Drake keeps records of all the transactions he has made. He keeps them in a cabinet, locked with silver chains so no one can reach them. I'm sure the transaction he made during buying your mate is also stored. His last statement made me growl loudly, causing him to flinch backwards. Again, how did you know that? My father asked. Like I said, during my slavery period, I saw him placing a file inside the cabinet after finishing off a deal he was making, Wesley replied back. After a couple of times seeing it, I confirmed that that's where he keeps records of all his transactions. You could ask for more details from your mate. She probably knows everything about that pack house. I'm asking her nothing, I snarled at him. My father's hand took its place on my shoulder again. I turned to face him. We should get it, I said, determined. My father scrunched up his face in confusion. How? He asked. Alpha Drake is leaving the pack house next week, Wesley stated. It's a trip he's been planning on for months. I don't know any details about it, though, he continued. Dad, can we trust him? I asked my father as I pointed at Wesley. I don't know, he replied. Can we? He asked more to Wesley than me as he looked at him expectantly. Wesley must have caught on as he immediately replied, Absolutely, sir. I would never betray you. I know I've only been here for a short time, but I'm indebted to you for not killing me or treating me like Alpha Drake. This will be your only chance. You either gain our trust and become a pack member, or we send you back to your alpha, I said in a daring tone. Wesley nodded his head rapidly. Okay, we'll be meeting again tomorrow to plan this properly. You'll come too, Wesley, my father said, to which both Wesley and I nodded. You can leave, my father told Wesley. He nodded again and left the room. I think I'll leave too, Dad, I said, as I started making my way to the door. He nodded in return and went back to his desk. I left the office, making my way to my bedroom. I expected Eva to be sleeping, but when I opened the door, I was met with her curious face. Did I wake you up? I asked her, to which she shook her head. I didn't sleep, she replied softly. I sat on the bed next to her and raised my hand slowly to her hair, stroking it lightly. Why not? I asked. She stuttered a little before turning her body to look at me fully. Her action perked my attention, and I was worried something happened. This is my entire fault, she blurted out, catching me off guard. I straightened up beside her. What's your fault? I asked her, confused and a bit mad. The attack. I know that Alpha Drake sent them to get me. Your pack members will be hurt because of me, she replied pleadingly. Eva, I called out. Let's play a game, I said. Her face told me that she was beyond surprised at what I said. I didn't wait for her to reply and continued. It's called 20 questions. I'll ask you a question and you reply truthfully. Then you ask me a question and I'll reply truthfully, I explained. She looked at me blankly for a while before nodding. Okay, I'll start. What's your favorite color? I asked. I don't think I have a favorite. Each color is beautiful in its own way, she replied back. I offered her a genuine smile. Okay, your turn, I said. What's yours? She asked. Favorite color? I asked, raising an eyebrow. She nodded. Black, I replied. My turn. Can you trust me? She looked at me with surprise and confusion. Can you believe in me? Believe that as long as I live, I'll forever love and protect you. Believe that our pack members will always protect you with their lives. Believe that you'll be happy and that your pack members love and cherish you and are ready to die for you even if they've never once met you. Believe that you'll forever be mine and I'll forever be yours. Can you believe that? I asked her in a soft, pleading tone. She was shocked from my sudden rant, but soon enough, her gaze softened, and what she did shocked me in return. She slowly reached her arms and wrapped them around my torso, leaning her head on my chest, giving me a warm hug that sent the sparks to circulate my whole body. My body was tensed at the surprise attack, but it also relaxed, and my arms wrapped around her in return, one of my hands reaching for her head and patting it lightly. I couldn't help but grin happily.